Hey, welcome back to the Drawing Database. Professor Marc Leone. Today we spend 15 minutes in this lesson with the drawings of Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres, French painter. He was born in 1780 and died in 1867. So he had a nice, relatively long career. You'll see that he is a Neo Classicist, a clear, defined, more controlled, quiet neoclassical artist, drawing and painting in a very French academic style, also a teacher, also a violinist, and a beautiful draftsman, and a purveyor of very clean graphic excellence in contour line drawing, as well as the beautiful controlled, very slick, very non-painterly type surface of his paintings. So let's take a look at the drawings here. Let me change color, maybe I'll make it a little bit better here. And so we see Ingres in his signature kind of style, his mature phase, with the very contoured academic approach to French drawing. You'll see Degas do that later on still. And the rendering of some detail, mostly these were done in graphite. And you see the beautiful quality of the model positioned on some kind of seat where it was to be a horse and rider type of seat. And these were definitely done from life. Here we see Ingres and his most delicate, sensitive rendering, almost like an engraving. We have beautiful control of the, looks like a chalk drawing. Could be graphite, but a control drawing from marble cast. Could be the Lacune group at the Louvre or wherever it's housed. But we see beautiful anatomy, the rectus femoris, the vastus medialis here, lateralis on the edge, sartorius coming down, and we see the bursa of the knee, etc., and so on. This beautiful line. So two different models, the great control of the feet, very long-term, very controlled, well-crafted drawing laid in with a very light graphite line, and then you see the beautiful cross-contouring right of the stroking pattern of the thighs and around the figure, maybe stumped a little bit to his veil. Very, very long pose and a long rendering process that rendered for Ingres some very fantastic results in preparation for his very meticulously crafted paintings. A page of studies here with classic Angra Technique, this very much penciled etched line working mostly more on the tip, perhaps in a kind of a conductor drawing style where he held the tip of the pencil. If I draw a little pencil here, he would hold it, that's maybe like a brush, but anyway, out here at the tip, and to use this very fine point. So he would hold it very far away from the lead here, and then use the lead in a very fine point kind of way. And we see that working to great effect here on the drawing, and with this beautiful quicker gesture, line gesture here. See how he controls that well? Many different pages or positions of the same model, holding tea or holding a drink in a exploratory phase to get the best position for the figures that he wanted. This is very quick compared to obviously the last drawing we saw. We see the hand in many different positions. Remember, artists today probably don't spend as much time with this kind of preparatory work in drawing because we have photography now. And so that ended that a little bit, and it changed drawing, the way we look at drawing too as well. So it's fascinating the ways that photography changed art, drawing and painting specifically, as it also opened up a new avenue for a new expressive aesthetic. One of the most well-known aspects of Ingres' work was portraiture. He was an excellent portraitist, excuse my bad English. And the style that you'll see him famous for is this beautiful linear style in graphite to emphasize the clothing of the model, the folds, and what seems like a very gestural, almost effortless approach, but yet it's still meticulous and accurate. And then the beautiful, you'll see the more rendering parts of the face and the hair, and then with more supreme, graceful detail into the shadow, into the nose forms, and we have a very top-lit model, which was popular to a front end also from the top to get a sense of the full lit face, but with some undertoning of shadow. See the nose, undertoning of the nose, etc., to give force and fullness to the face. Another great portrait here, a double portrait here of could be friends or brothers, if you will, and you see the quintessential Ingres style. You'll be able to recognize his work from others because of its loose but controlled linear quality of folds, of fabric, just enough value and hatching contour, cross contour to read the model three-dimensionally. And then the genius is the controlled use of linear stroke mark making and stumping and blending of the facial features and the great control of the portrait in the eyes. And these are not very big drawings either, so there's a kind of a resolution and a tightness, if you will, within the small portrait size that he worked in some of these, which is very, very difficult to get that kind of control. So these are elegant and sophisticated and quite effective. Here we have a pose of what is probably Marc, and a study of a scribing and drawing, probably done from a studio model live with a very, for Angra, quick graphite linear contour approach with the tip of the pencil primarily to etch out the line work, because we don't see that thicker charcoal line go into a small line. So very different start of a drawing style than we've seen from the Italians in the Italian Renaissance, the French Academy there in the 17th, 18th, 19th century had a little bit different approach. And you can see that into the way that the drawings are stylized and figured. And they're a little bit less on movement, a little bit more on more sophisticated kind of control. Of course, we did until we get to Delacroix with Romanticism, but beautiful control of anatomy, light source slightly from the top left as we see the shadow pattern here to the right, of course, the figure looking up. But great, great control of form, and also nice and beautiful control of thickness and thinness of lightweight, with just enough toning and rendering to give a slightly more 3D heightened effect to the drawing. Same thing here with the model, a larger, thicker set of a model. Notice the underemphasis on the feet, how small they are. It's generally the opposite way, and of course the quintessential Ingres style of contour line, the contour approach, the pooching out of the 12th rib there in the front. Of course, it comes back over. We see it here, right? And then the underturn here, and then the protrusion there of the pelvic crest, iliac crest coming in front, and then the trochanter here, buttock, and then of course down onto the leg. Beautiful study of a model. You can see the elongation of form, the lack of the proper scale and proportion to emphasize design. This is why I talk about allowing changes to your work style. Notice the over elongated lima bean, if you will, or the pelvis, the abdomen, and then the shoulder region, how longer, but he controls it so well, but it's longer than anatomically it would be. You see this all over Ingres figures in his paintings of odalisques, etc. And you see it here with this young male in pose, holding his knee. We see that elongation made to beautiful rhythmic sophistication. I thought this was a nice page of studies to see his thinking process, the use of plenty of space for model drawing, his quintessential style of an academic outline, keeping the rhythms and the structure mostly in the head and drawing the outline contour, which is a harder approach. You know, generally we construct the model, which you can shorthand that and not have to draw those if you don't want to. So he's keeping all that in his head, right? And then he's rendering in graphite, and then a very, very quick and rough lay-in of some shadow. and then we see multiple hands, and then also at the face and through here, and then some scaling, it looks like, that was done not prior to the drawing or not during the drawing to control scale or proportion or angles, but done after to scale up. Maybe he liked the foot that he wanted, so he would scale it up and then draw it 3 times as big, and then draw from the drawing that he had. That was a process that was learned and done to scale up a drawing. We saw it in the Renaissance with Michelangelo, and a technique that is still used today if needed, but also originated in the Renaissance and used to take a small drawing and scale it up 5, 3, 4, however many times sizes that you needed. Let's say for a Sistine Chapel, from a small Sibyl drawing from Michelangelo would render a very big proportional change. And here I'm talking about kind of the height of Ingres' portrait style. And these were done on commission. It was I'm sure a good money-making venture for him to render with pencil tip the folding of clothing, the elegance of the bourgeois, royalty, or friends of the monarchy, etc. Of course, he lived after the Revolution, so that would be we wouldn't have a monarchy then. But we certainly would have the well-off and the certainly powerful that would sit for Ingres and take their pose, and he would render them out, not as a photograph, obviously, but as a drawing. And we see the tightening and the control in the head of both the three, the male, the father, the mother, and then also the lovely little child there. Ingres is one of Ingres' most famous portraits of Piggini here, classical musician here with looks like a violin here. In hand, you notice the beautiful rendering in the face. Very loose, but yet very expressive. Just enough rendering in the cheek structure, the eye structure, nose and mouth to render the beard, slight beard there, and the beautiful hair. And then the shorthand of sketching that's a little bit looser and controlled. Look at the beautiful quality. Notice the beautiful quality. See if we can bump that up a little bit of the line work there. Yeah, let's go a little bit larger. There we go. Of what he was doing with this rendering. And we see that great control of the tip. But notice again all the changes from a little slightly darker, lighter and thinner to darker button, a little darker, a little slight rendering of darker shadows, core shadows or cast shadows in control to just masterful effect. And lastly, I'll leave you with one more beautiful classic study of very Neo-Classicism. A much more controlled kind of anatomy with less action in a quieter, more stable or symmetrical tonal approach, or approach to composition, if you will, all over. But we see the beautiful side of the leg studies in different positions, bent or flexed or in relaxing pose. The beautiful positioning of the big toe here and the curve of the leg here and through, and much more of a contour line. So a little bit, certainly less sketchy, still loose, but a controlled contour line nonetheless. And a good way to leave our 15 minutes with Angra in what is a beautiful academic neoclassical style of drawing.